second speaker in opposition of the motion is the Right Honourable Sir Robert Buckland. Sir Robert was the Conservative MP for Swindon South from 2010 to 2024. He previously served as Solicitor General, Lord Chancellor and Secretary of State for Justice. He was knighted in 2022 for his political and public service and was recently appointed Wales's Third Church Estates Commissioner. So Robert, you have the ears of the House. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Madam President. It's tempting in this debate to resort to semantics about what an opposition is. Is it Her Majesty's official opposition, which clearly the Conservative Party in terms of numbers and organisation is, or is it the full-throated, media-backed opposition that the proponents of this motion would have you believe? Our first speaker, in a very well-constructed but a rather cynical speech, I thought, suggested that opposition is who the media choose it to be. Well, I take a very old-fashioned view of that, Madam President. I think governments and oppositions are chosen by the people. And the people are never wrong. I had to face the decision of the electorate last year in rather full view on that July night, and I hope you realised and saw that I took my defeat gracefully. That's because the British public are never wrong, and they have to be listened to when they tell parties that they no longer want them in government. But listening to people and responding to their genuine fears and concerns is very, very different from latching on to putting your lasso around a particular fad or cause, which is what I believe the current reform movement is, or should I call it the Faragiste movement. It's a very interesting, isn't it, that the charismatic Nigel Farage, who personally I get on with very well, has such a French surname. His politics is really quite continental, isn't it? It's much more of the Poujadiste, Boulangiste version of politics that we're just not used to in this country. I think if he had his chance, he'd be out on the streets of London, and if they were cobblestoned, he'd have those cobblestones up. And yes, those yellow-vested gilets jaunes would be with him protesting against the ignominies of this appalling Labour government. It's all very, very un-British, I think. And therefore we should really pause and just think about what it is that we are unleashing upon British politics. Because when you look at reform and look at them carefully, as I'm sure you're doing, it really is Nigel Farage, isn't it? You know, once you strip that away, what are you left with? You're left with a party or a movement, I'm not sure they're a party yet, but there's certainly a movement that can tell you all the problems with this country, but can come up with none of the solutions. They're like the doctor who tells you that you've got a very serious infection, but gives you absolutely no prescription whatsoever. Yes?
Isn't that a perfect role for opposition? The gentleman over there said, well, we need policies. Opposition has nothing with policies. We have no effect, we have no power in opposition. But you can bring attention to issues that is brilliant at that.
You echoed Disraeli, who said that the job of opposition is to oppose everything, to propose nothing, and to bring down the government. He said that in the 1860s. Now, much as I'm a huge admirer of Benjamin Disraeli and his particular brand of Toryism, which still lives to this day, I do not think that opposition in the 2020s can just be that. It has to be more. And when you strip away the noise, the sturm und drang about political commentators and what they're saying and who's up and who's down, which frankly now I'm out of Westminster is of marginal interest to me, let's actually go back to what people are worried about. There are three great challenges, I think, facing all of us as citizens, as members of this society. First of all, the challenge of peace and security. The old order that was set up at the end of the Second World War in 1945 by the great figures of that time is over. NATO and its structures are now being challenged in a way that we couldn't have imagined even a few months ago. Now, we shouldn't be too surprised because some of these tendencies have been developing for a number of years, but there's no doubt that the new administration in Washington has accelerated that. So that's number one. Number two is the alarming for many and a breathtaking, for some of us, rise of artificial intelligence and quantum computing, which is not just going to be a bolt-on to the way we live our lives, but is going to fundamentally change our relationships with each other and indeed with wider society. It's frightening a lot of people out there who are thinking about what they're going to be doing in a few years, whether they're going to have work, whether they're going to be able to afford to feed their families. And finally, there is, whether they like it or not, the real challenge of what climate change means to mass population movements, strife in the sub-Saharan part of Africa, and the pressure that we see here manifested in Europe. And yes, immigration and movement of people is a legitimate and genuine concern for many of us, me included. But I'm afraid that in their diagnosis of the problem, we have yet to see any real answers. And where we see projected solutions from a reform, what we hear is incoherence. I mean, the net zero policies they launched back in February were reviled quite rightly as an incoherent mess, which involved, frankly, penalising and taxing anybody who was involved in renewables, which would, of course, have had a net burden upon us, the consumer. And it was very quickly that they then retreated and decided that those misguided policies were in fact an aspiration. So when they try and put their toe into the water of policy, they find that the water is far too hot. Was there a point of information? Yes.
I don't see why it matters if their policies make no sense. Labour is wandering around acting like they're about to come in and snatch their receipts right from under their noses. Quality of the policy doesn't seem to prevent millions from turning out. I mean, we'll all wake up tomorrow and we might see a very, very, very startling result. The policy.
All right, well, from a sedentary position, I think we all heard what the Honourable Lady said. I'm afraid that frankly, is an incoherent argument. You're making the case, actually, for the opposition by acknowledging the fact that, no matter how ill-conceived and badly thought out, then, it's all right to just speak irresponsibly, without care, without seriousness. And this is my fundamental problem. At a time when our world is facing the most serious challenges in my lifetime, we need serious people with serious policies in order to deal with them. We need the sort of leadership that cannot be sorted out at the end of a bar with a pint and a cigarette, however attractive that would be. We're living in the age of the centre not holding. It's Yeats, isn't it? The centre cannot hold. The worst are full of passionate intensity, the best lack all conviction. That's the era in which we're living, but we've been here before, ladies and gentlemen. We've seen these eras come and go, and it's only through clear-eyed leadership and the sort of example that, frankly, the party that I'm honoured and delighted to still be a part of after 40 years, has risen to the challenge of time and time again. We came back after the defeat in 1945. We revivified this economy after 1979. We dealt with the appalling aftermath of the great economic crisis of 2008. We delivered the Brexit that so many people voted for. I believe that it will be the Conservative Party that will rise to that challenge. However meretricious the appeal might be of Mr. Farage and his friends, and it may well be that tonight they'll have a pretty good score at the end of it. But one swallow does not a summer make, and the test for reform is going to be in the detail and in the inevitable challenge they're going to have when they need to come up with policies that frankly are going to be less half-baked than the ones that we've seen thus far. I really like Marco's baking analogy. He wanted to go into the kitchen, throw everything up and create, I don't know what, a baked Greenland a la Trump perhaps? I don't know. But we have an example, don't we, of where that type of populism is going, and we see what is happening in that first 100 days in the White House. Apparently, according to the president, the best 100 days in the history of the United States. But I'd like to see the worst, if this is the best, when the economy of the United States is now tanking. He has managed single-handedly to create an Argentinian scenario with a falling dollar, a falling stock market, and yes, even falling treasury bonds in the US. Nobody else has achieved such a trifecta of disaster. All because this is a president, and this is a populist version of republicanism that frankly I do not recognize, and many other Republicans do not recognize either, that is all about breaking everything, about dividing, about not bringing people together by example, and creating enemies. Now that seems to me to be the politics of divisive destruction, inchoate anger, and a complete absence of the sort of constructive leadership that frankly the times demand. As I've said, Madam President, serious times require serious people. Ask yourselves this: are reform in any measure the serious party that we need, not just to oppose, but to govern? I think the answer is a resounding and easy no.
Very good.
Thank you.